50 years in Phoenix, Arizona. I did a variety of things. Of course, working with couples was one of those areas that I spent a lot of time with. I also, in the last 15 years of my practice, did a lot of forensic or legal work, which included family law issues. So I got a real firsthand uh, glimpse at what happens when things don't go well with marriage, including, of course, dealing with the kids and so on. Had a fair amount of clinical experience. I also do professional speaking to the community and to other mental health professionals, primarily on managing and effectively a private practice. Now, to your question, which is certainly a good one, it's probably one of the most important decisions you're going to make in your life. Maybe aside from thinking about what kind of career you're going to have, but choosing the right person, if you will, is essential. My experience, now, of course, maybe my experience is a bit skewed because I was seeing lots of couples who were already in trouble, typically. They didn't come to see me because things were just fine. But many times, what I saw is that they weren't a good match from the beginning. And so it's important that we do a good job of vetting our partner, if you will. I've accused teasingly many clients over the years that they spent more time checking out their new phone or a new car than they did their spouse to begin with. And that's a shame. Um, so um, that's kind of the overall view. To get more specific, I think the first danger sign is to connect too quickly. I saw that a lot with many of the couples that I worked with over the many years that I was in practice. The history was, when I would talk about, okay, how did you meet, and so on. I heard a very similar story. Many of these couples were in the sack together, so to speak, within the second or third date, if you will, and and not that I'm a prude by any means. Sex is a good thing. As I like to say in my book on marriage, it's kind of like the cherry on the top of the sundae, if you will. But sex too early in a relationship clouds things. I have an article in which I talk about the pyramid, if you will, of a healthy relationship. And in it, I talk about, the base of the pyramid is similar values. Then maybe effective communication, commitment, and so on. These are all important things, that go into a healthy relationship. But what I saw often is that the pyramid was kind of upside down, balancing on its pinnacle, if you will, because what put the couple together and what was keeping the couple together was sex and passion. In other words, they kind of emotionally fell in love, which is important. There needs to be some chemistry there, but uh, chemistry is not going to keep the relationship alive by itself. The data is pretty clear. The divorce rate here in the United States is one of the highest in the world, and it depending on various areas, but it runs in the neighborhood between 45 and 50%. And the majority of those divorces occur within the first 5 years. Um, so obviously, we're not doing a great job of selecting our partners. And I believe one of the primary reasons for that is that we're not selecting them with our head, if you will. We're selecting them with our heart, or maybe if you will, a lower organ, and so on. And that's, that'll last about, if you're lucky, a year and a half. But if that's all you got going for you, it's not going to be a long-term relationship, most likely. One of the first things I used to tell couples, or a single person who was looking for someone, male or female, whatever the case may be, I would say, what's their credit rating? And you might go, well, and so on. Well, um, money, sex, in-laws, kids. Those four things typically plague most marriages. And how that money is dealt with and so forth is important. But the reason for getting a credit rating is I think it says something about how responsible that person is, and so on. And I believe that's a significant issue. It's important. I also recommend that when you are vetting your potential new partner, that you try to see how their parents relate, because as we should know, where do we learn certain things, like what does it mean to be married? What does it mean to be a husband or a wife? Father or mother, as the case may be. And for all of us, the first decade of our life is developed by our parents. And those initial learnings, if you will, are indelible. And so if you want to get a kind of a good idea what your marriage is likely to be, take a look at your prospective mate's parents' marriage. Now, if they've been divorced, or time or two or whatever, that's something to consider. Um, by the way, speaking of statistics, while the divorce rate for first marriages, as I said, is in the neighborhood of 45 to 50%, the divorce rate for second marriages, surprisingly, really, it surprises many people, not me, but it surprises many people, uh, is about 65%. Two out of three second marriages uh, fail. Well, if you go back and look at the big four, money, sex, in-laws, kids, take a look at what you have now in a second marriage. Money is all typically an issue with the second marriage. You got child support, this and that, and so on. Sex, well, okay, you've got, someone's been there before or whatever. I remember I had one case where, the second wife insisted they throw out the bed, that he slept with the first wife in, and that was a big fight, and all of those issues. Um, In-laws, well, guess what? Particularly if you have kids, you now not have one set of in-laws, you now have two sets of in-laws to deal with. Sometimes I lovingly call them the outlaws, but nevertheless. And then kids. Now you could have, your kids plus someone else's kids, and so on. And now you have step kids and so on. So you think you had it rough the first time. Second marriages are a whole new kettle of fish, if you will. So to start off with, as I was saying, uh, take your time, uh, vet your prospective partner, see how things go. I would avoid moving in together, by within the first month or so. That's too soon. Because what happens is you become not only emotionally or sexually committed. Once you move in together and you buy a couch together, now you're financially committed already, and so on. And you may not be ready. And before long, there's an inertia going, that you really can't stop. Also see their family, how their family works, and so on. Like I said, it's a very important decision. It's one that hopefully um, you'll live with for the rest of your life.
Dr. Larry, let me ask you a question in regards to what you shared, because there was a time in my life in my 20s where I wanted to get married. And to your point, I came from a home that both my parents were divorced. And my girlfriend at that time, who were considering married, she came from a household where there's a lot of fighting amongst the parents, to the point where sometimes it became physical, not with the husband and the wife, but let's say the mother and her daughter children. So the women in the family were very physically aggressive, where the men were more so verbally and so on. So for those who believe in like gender roles, there's a little bit of a switch, right, in regards to that aspect. So from me, when I looked at that and looking back on that, I said, okay, Terrain, if you were to enter this family, you know that there's a tendency for the women to be overly aggressive. Is this something that you can handle for the rest of your life? And I made a decision that it isn't at that point in time. In your experiences, do you find a lot of people, to your point, having those conversations within themselves and then having it outwardly and then making a decision? Or do people just get into these relationships with hopes and dreams? And if it works out, it works out.
Well, unfortunately, the latter, but you were smart. You saw a significant issue. and you had concerns about it. Now, and you're right. Now, what I've not yet said is that if you recognize a concern, um, that's what therapy is all about, couples therapy. But unfortunately, very few